Mom, and stay on the line with me until the police arrive.
Justin, Eric, Nathan, and Joseph, tell us what to do.
Hi, this is Tom Savini, and you're listening to Hysteria Continued.
And welcome back to the Hysteria Continues. This is episode 334, and tonight, well, here she comes. Is it she comes? No, tonight she comes. We are covering a listener pick. Joseph, perhaps you could tell us and the viewers a little bit more about this and who picked it.
This was picked by someone in the Netherlands named Peter de B or By. Sorry if I'm butchering your surname there, Peter. He has a lot to say about this in the feedback portion, but I guess we'll see what we all think.
Yeah, so, well, we'll come on to that, which I know is a kind of joke I've made many times before, but I think it's probably quite apt for this particular show, isn't it? And we're not going to make lots of cum jokes, are we, Eric?
We're above that.
We are above that.
We're sophisticated and mature.
Yeah. So, but this time we're going. This time we're going back to, was it 2016? I think it was shot in 2015, but a newer film which kind of hovers around the periphery of the slasher movie, but certainly enough for us to cover it. So, yes, looking forward to that. So, this is our second video podcast for the main feed, isn't it? I think.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, going out to Patreons first. So I'm not sure if anyone's actually seen any of the video podcast, so we're not quite sure. We haven't had any feedback yet on it, but that will be to come shortly. Joseph is the maestro behind the scenes.
Yeah, no reports of mass swooning from
not
people
yet, Eric.
seeing us
not
all.
yet.
Yeah.
So anyway, how are we doing, Nathan? You're looking very chipper.
Oh, I am. I'm looking very wood chipper. Massacre.
Wow.
Oh.
That's uncanny, isn't it?
Spooky coincidence.
I know.
Yeah.
Justin, we're here with it. We're here with it.
We are. We're mentally, and also we're actually recording a quiz a little bit later. So Nathan, I will feed you the answers through the power of mind.
Well,
we can see.
Feed me
We'll see you throwing.
He should feed me the answers. I'm his bandmate.
Exactly. And also, actually, that's the thing is you can cheat through psychic means on a video podcast, Eric, and no one will know.
Well, you can see you'll be concentrating. We'll be able to tell.
What, looking like I need to go to the toilet or something?
Yeah.
But anyway.
Yeah.
Well, talking of going to the toilet and various bodily functions, which there's plenty of those in She Comes Tonight.
Tonight She Comes.
Tonight She Comes. I'm going to get that wrong all the way through. But I did say before we start recording, I did regret drinking a glass of beetroot juice during the end of this movie. And perhaps we'll touch on that a little bit later. But, Eric, how are you doing? You're looking very pensive.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, behind my gorgeously decorated backdrop.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm in a void.
It looks like you're not back in that Turkish prison, are you?
No, I'm on the other side.
Oh, like Carol Ann?
Yeah.
Carol Ann!
But you're doing okay.
But they served gin and tonics here, so I'm okay.
Oh, you're back on the booze. Well, actually,
We say I don't work weekends now, so I'm really letting loose. I've really turned wild.
And Joseph, how are you doing? Your big green hand.
You like my big green hand? It's my microphone.
I know.
What's it from?
It's a Frankenstein arm.
Ah.
I believe it's Frankenstein.
Frankenstein's monster, technically.
Yes. Mr. Pedantic.
Mr. Pedantic, yeah. So, okay, before we get onto the joys of Come She Tonight, we will be chatting a little bit about what we've been watching recently. So, Nathan, have you seen anything you want to tell us about?
Yes, only one. I watched one last night called Late Checkout. It's a newer slasher movie. I'd seen it on Slasher Trash. Gareth Morgan, I think, was a producer on it. And I watched it last night, and I actually thought it was a lot of fun. It's only like 70 minutes, so it's not a very long film or anything. And, I mean, it just gets right down to the slashing. It's just a group of friends at a cabin, and a maniac is killing them off one by one, and they use practical effects. And to be such a low-budget movie, they actually did a really good job on the effects. So, yeah, I actually thought, oh, okay, you guys did well.
Excellent. I've seen the poster for that on Slasher Trash, but I haven't seen the movie itself. So, well, I'm glad to hear it's obviously, we are covering a relatively low-budget slasher or horror movie today, so it's kind of a good comparison, perhaps. But this one's kind of more of a straight-ahead slasher.
Yes, it's a full-on slasher. It's got a lot of body parts hacked off and stomachs ripped open and intestines pulled out. I prefer my intestines to stay inside, but that's just me.
That's when they work best, I find.
So, anything else, Nathan?
No, aside from what we're covering.
Okay. So, Eric, did you see anything apart from the bottom of a gin bottle?
I was down the country visiting family, and I saw lots of gin then and limoncello. But I did manage to see one other film, and it's possibly one, if we're calling Tonight She Comes a slasher movie, then maybe Pumpkinhead from 1988 could be a slasher movie, possibly. Hadn't watched it in a while. It holds up really well. The effects, whilst rubbery and 80s looking, are still hold up really well. It's done by the same guys who did Aliens. So Pumpkinhead has a bit more gravitas than your usual sort of 80s latex monster thing. But I thought it was really good. It's got, as you know, Lance Henriksen as kind of this lead character whose son is accidentally killed by these boisterous scrambler motorbike enthusiasts. And he summons up this demon to take out his vengeance on them. And actually, the teenagers who accidentally kill the kid are all kind of likable, except for one who's a bit obnoxious. But the rest of them are kind of likable and sympathetic. Something that I would probably not apply to the characters in Tonight She Comes, but more on that later. But yeah, I thought Pumpkinhead, lots of fun. Could we possibly pick it for the main feed? Or is it more of a Patreon pick?
I think at this point it doesn't really matter anymore.
Yeah, I know. I think we could pick Dirty Dancing as the main pick now.
Well, we have our limits, sorry, but I do think Pumpkinhead, we could squeeze that one in because essentially it's got the structure of a slash movie, isn't it?
We picked Rawhead Rex. That's essentially more or less the same movie.
Yeah, it is. It's essentially Rawhead Rex. And did we do Rawhead Rex as a main pick?
We did.
There's no pissing in Pumpkinhead, though.
We'll be making up for that in...
Tonight She Comes, yeah. There is pissing in that, yeah.
So, okay. Well, thank you, Eric. Anything else?
Nope, that was it.
Okay. Well, Joseph, how about you?
Yeah, I saw Fear Street Prom Queen, which I thought was kind of middle of the road. I appreciate that Netflix is this huge streaming service that wants to deliver a cut and dry slasher film, and I liked it. I didn't love it. I just, it does everything right, but it doesn't do everything great. I loved all the gory set pieces. I love the mother character who's so obsessed with her daughter winning the prom queen mantle. I love all that stuff. I love all the infighting. You got the main girl who could more or less be Jamie Lee Curtis. She has her nemesis, like, I think Eric mentioned this on the last episode.
Yeah.
They have this kind of back and forth in the halls of the school, and that stuff's fun. While I was watching it, I was enjoying it, but once it was done, I've forgotten it. So middle of the road, I enjoyed it while it was on, but I probably won't watch it again.
Well, fair enough, but I can arguably a good popcorn slasher should be, well, arguably not forgettable, but it's like a fast food meal, isn't it? Something you enjoy at the time, not necessarily going to leave a huge impression.
Well, some of them are a little more buttery than others, and they last a little longer.
Yeah, I can see. I mean, we discussed. I think we've all seen it at this point, haven't we?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I reviewed it on Hysteria Lives, and I liked it well enough. But I think it's at this point it's kind of funny, isn't it? Because we're getting into 2025 now, and we're how many years? 30 plus years away from the 40 plus years away from...
45 years since prom night. Yeah.
Yeah. So a long time really, and this kind of obsession with 80s horror movies, which of course I'm here for, I love, but I just wonder how much longer it's going to go on for as part of the kind of Gen Z and stuff, kind of obsession with 80s stuff, how much it will go on for. Maybe it is because the 80s were the best decade, arguably. I don't know. But I thought I had fun with it. Like you say, it's not earth-shattering, and I was surprised actually by its kind of negative reviews on IMDb and places like that, who kind of expected to reinvent the wheel. And sometimes you just want a good slasher movie that is going to hit the right notes, and like those kind of almost those slasher pair of slippers, really, something comfortable to slip into.
Yeah, and it does all that. I don't know. It just, there is character and warmth to the 80s films that they just can't recapture, and they try to do it here, but it's swimming in anachronisms, and I've learned to kind of forget about that. But at the end of the day, I know when someone's pretending that it's the 80s, and I know when it is the 80s, so I'm always going to see that difference.
I think the only film that I can think of that has recaptured that look of the early 80s would be something like House of the Devil, which the Ty West movie, which has got the look of the early 80s and everything's quite drab in it, because people forget actually a lot of the early 80s. We were watching a rerun of Top of the Pops from 1987, and all the people in the audience were dressed in the most disgusting pastel pleated skirts and shapeless jumpers and things like that. And that's what the 80s looked like for a lot of people. A lot of the time that's what it looked like. So this kind of very over-the-top kind of rah-rah skirts and big puff sleeve shirts and things like that.
There's nothing wrong with rah-rah skirts and big puff sleeves.
Well, I know, Eric, and you can slip into one of those later. But
okay.
What I'm saying is that isn't necessarily what the 80s looked like all the time. Having said that, I thought Prom Night, Fear Street Prom Queen actually had some pretty horrible 80s clothes in it, to its credit. It wasn't really going for that completely polished look. A lot of those prom dresses were pretty horrible, and so quite on point. But yeah. So anyway, is there anything else anyone chime in on? I know we did talk about it before.
I mean, I agree that it is a slightly popcorn, and it's so popcorny it's slightly forgettable. But I can see myself revisiting it in future years, because I really enjoyed it. Because it was just very much back to basics and had a wonderful, as you said, a Wendy type character from Prom Night is in Prom Queen. I can't remember her name, but yeah, she was fun as the villainess. Yeah.
She's really good as the villain. I think, going to stand out. So, well, thank you, Joseph. Anything else?
No, that's it.
Well, the only thing I've caught up with, I think I mentioned, I'm not sure if I did actually, but we went to see Sinners, the new kind of horror blockbuster. It's probably the biggest horror film of the year. Our local cinema here in Spain, and they have I think I've mentioned this before on the podcast, but every week they have one film in English with Spanish subtitles. So they show, like, they call it version original. And Sinners was listed, and we went down to the cinema, and they were like, looked at us as if we were completely mad, and it wasn't on. So even though the poster had been up like 2 hours earlier when we walked past cinema, and the next day the poster was back up for Sinners, and it was there for another 2 or 3 weeks. So it's kind of, to be honest, we kind of get used to this kind of thing. But so I actually caught up with it. It's just come to streaming, so I caught up with it last night. And actually, I do genuinely think it's kind of worth the hype. I think it's really quite a kind of special movie. It's been compared to From Dusk Till Dawn, which is kind of, I can see where that comes from with the vampires and things like that, but it's kind of to do it a disservice, because it's into Dusk Till Dawn. It goes from Quentin Tarantino gangster flick, doesn't it, to monster movie at the halfway point, like a massive kind of volte face. Whereas this, you kind of know you're in for a vampire pick quite early on. He doesn't sort of pull the rug out from underneath you. So, but it's kind of it dips into the kind of musical at points, which sounds very strange, but it's actually incredibly well done. So I won't give too much away, but I thought it was really good. I was really entertained by it. I thought it was, and it's actually had some creepy moments, but it was more sort of like stuff that just kind of goes into that kind of what the fuck territory, which is actually going to mess with your head in a good way. So yeah, I really liked it. So have any of you guys seen Sinners yet?
Not yet, no. I'm kind of put off by the fact that it's a vampire movie. Is the other genre it melds with it? Is it is it a Western or something? Or
it's not a Western. It's set in the 1930s in Louisiana, perhaps, and it's kind of sort of black community. And the kind of story is these two brothers come back from Chicago and set up by this big barn from this kind of Ku Klux Klan guy, and they kind of turn it into like a place for blues music, and they have a big party that night, and then that's kind of where things go. So it's kind of more of it's not a really Western at all. It's sort of set in I presume it's the 1930s.
Okay, I must have got my wires crossed there. But yeah, it's one because it's vampires, which are not my favorite genre. But having said that, whenever I sit down to watch a vampire movie like Near Dark, Lost Boys, The Hunger, anything like that, I end up really enjoying it. It's just getting the motivation to put it on.
But do you not like From Dusk Till Dawn?
I do, yeah. I don't think it's brilliant, but I do like it, yeah.
It's also actually got a peculiarly kind of Irish twist to it as well.
Oh. Is Enya in it?
Thankfully, no. But the main vampire is Irish.
Oh,
although he's played by Jack O'Connell, who's a British actor. But but it's kind of really kind of interesting meld. There's lots of watch it and find out, basically.
Okay.
So well, that was our recently seen. So now on to our main pick, She Tonight Comes, which. So what do we have, Joseph, to guide us gently into this movie?
We will have a trailer.
Excellent. I don't think anyone in this movie had a trailer. But anyway, so after this trailer, Joseph, bring us gently into the night.
Yesterday, she was chosen. At midnight, she was sacrificed. This morning, she was buried. But tonight, she comes. Everyone else will die.
After a girl goes missing, two of her friends and a mysterious set of strangers find themselves drawn to the cabin in the woods where she disappeared. They will laugh. They will drink. They will kiss. They will make love. And they must all die. Okay, that was the slightly off-kilter blurb from the IMDb for Tonight She Comes, which is a listener pick by Netherlands dweller Peter de Bee. And again, sorry if I butchered your surname, Peter. So Tonight She Comes follows essentially two sets of two characters, a guy and a girl duo, and both are looking for a girl named Christy who lives way out in the woods but doesn't appear to be home. The two guys, James and Pete, are out delivering mail to Christy, while the two girls, Lindsay and Ashley, are her seemingly party animal friends looking to turn up a few bottles of hooch. The two groups collide when Christy is discovered naked, clinging to life in the woods by Pete, who is killed by her in turn when he discovers she's not quite as dead as he thought. And she immediately sets her sights on the remaining group back at her cabin. Meanwhile, an unseen presence is out in the woods, pulling back tree branches, dealing with the usual bout of COPD. And they may be tied to the naked Christy in more ways than one. So Tonight She Comes has something of an intriguing setup with what looks to be a rogue birthing scene gone wrong, with hints of sinister shenanigans at play. But then we spend the next hour with 4 characters who seem a generation or two removed from possessing a personality between them each. In fact, we don't get much setup on the characters heading to the woods this time. We don't get a setup at all, really. Things just happen, and the characters are just there. It's a not so uncommon practice in slasher films when a body count or buckets of blood is the main concern of the hour. But Tonight She Comes seems most concerned not with the business end of blood, though it is gory, more than it is with being as indie and offbeat as possible. And sometimes with the right director that can work. But when you're a kid with a low budget and no script and only art house aspirations, you gamble between showcasing lightning and a bottle beauty or completely irritating your audience. And I found myself more irritated with Tonight She Comes than transfixed. The main problem I had with the film is it's first and foremost, I've always been and always will be a character first viewer, and nothing else that may happen in a movie matters very little if it happens to people you don't care about. And that's the problem with the movie in a nutshell. I contend that as an off-kilter sort of avant-garde take on what is essentially the plot to John Russo's Midnight, with the whole girls go missing, several characters have a vested interest in finding her, Satanists show up and are behind it all, plot mechanics at play, but done in sort of I wish I knew more art house cinema so I could make an apt comparison, but as I'm a simple man, I'll just say that this movie overly aspires to art house, and I don't know, that sort of thing just does nothing for me, Peter. And an hour and a half of it without anyone to root for is not my idea of a good time, honestly. So I'm sorry. Maybe the other guys will have had a better experience with this movie, but for me, I knew I was in trouble when the first thing that pops up on screen was a text blurb that urges the viewer to watch the film on full volume. Like, no thanks. I get what you're going after here. So this movie wasn't for me. The one person who may get something out of this, Nathan, what did you think?
Okay, so I think I told you guys this before we started recording, is that, I've seen it more than once this week, and I still don't know exactly how I feel about it, because there's a lot of things I like about this movie. I think that there are some great, creepy moments thrown in amongst this odd comedy. There's the scene where they're standing on the other side of the lake and they see like the bloody, naked Christy standing on the other side, and she's just kind of walking into the water. And I actually thought, that's actually kind of a creepy moment in the movie, but it just has this odd comedy. It's almost like it's slapstick, but the movie still is serious. I don't know. It's hard to explain, because it's like the characters will be in a very serious situation, but they're like trying to be funny at the same time. There's like, I don't know, the scene where one of the girls is getting attacked. It's almost like, oh, I'm about to get stabbed with a shard of glass. You want to go to the mall later? That doesn't happen in the movie, but that's the vibe that I get, is that they kind of have this, I don't know, they kind of don't take it seriously, but they do. I thought the effects were really good. I thought they did a really good job with the effects. And kudos to the actress that plays, the nude character that's, willing to walk around bloody for the entire movie. I thought that was a pretty brave choice. I don't think I would have done it. I think
you would, Nathan.
But no, I can't. Like, I'm just, I'm very modest.
But in the name of art, you're an artist, Nathan.
Well, I don't know if I'm very artistic.
You could have compromised. You could have had a coconut covered in blood.
Yeah.
But like I said, I do like it. I kind of feel like maybe I would have gone a different direction. I think there's a lot of it that doesn't make a lot of sense to me. But I mean, I also like some nonsensical movies. I love Amusement. I think that movie is fantastic, but it's also kind of a movie that is very weird and doesn't make a lot of sense in general. And Tonight She Comes also doesn't make a whole lot of sense. I know that. I mean, I still had a lot of fun. I think that there's a lot to like here. I was never bored, which I think is always a plus because it just kept getting weirder and weirder. And, there's a nice little nod to Friday the 13th Part 7 with the sleeping bag death, where one character's getting bashed against the tree. I'm surprised while she's getting bashed against the tree, she wasn't like, oh God, my hair, or just something silly, because it kind of seems like that's, how it would have gone. There's also a character who the actor just really goes for that Southern accent. And he has a daughter whose name is Felicity. And I was telling you guys also that I felt like I was watching Psycho Cop again, because not only does he say her name in almost every line that he says, but he also does it in this very exaggerated way. It's like, Felicity, listen to me, Felicity. Hey, go close the door, Felicity. I mean, yeah, Felicity, so, I'm surprised that they didn't just spell that out, the way he says it. But again, like I would definitely rank it above average. I absolutely would, but I don't know, just something holds it back from being a higher score for me. And I can't quite put my finger on what it is in Tonight She Comes.
Fair enough. Justin, what did you think of the film?
Well, like Nathan, there's stuff in here to kind of celebrate. I mean, for a low budget movie, it looks really good. I mean, I think it's really well shot. It's got a great retro score. I think the score is probably one of the best things about it. For me, I think the tonally it was all over the place. It kind of starts as this kind of kooky comedy, like kind of indie comedy, with this kind of, and also like trying to kind of gross out moments, or kind of at least sort of felt like it's trying to push the envelope all the time, which I don't have a problem with. But, you start off with someone wanking in the back of a car while they're going to deliver the mail, and then wanking in the woods while he's watching some girls with some binoculars. And it's all played for comedy, which is fair enough. But the film then kind of the halfway point kind of shifts into this kind of Southern Gothic drama about possession and witchcraft and devilry and things like that. And so that kind of comedy, which wasn't entirely successful, just completely changes. And not to say that other films don't do that and be perhaps more successful with it. It seems to be borrowing from lots of different films. I mean, for me, a film that kind of did this better, but in a different way, was In the Violent Nature, which took the slasher movie as a basis for what it wanted to do, and then went off in its own kind of art house kind of sort of direction to try something different. I couldn't really, it felt like it was trying to be going in a trauma direction, and then it was pulling back. And also for me, it felt like it was thinking, what's the most outrageous thing we can do, without really committing to it. So the scene at the end where there's all this menstrual blood and they're squeezing tampons into goblets and all that kind of thing, it just felt it was done for shock effect rather than for anything else. And for me, sometimes when I'm watching these movies, I kind of think, was there any real thought behind this, or is this just a load of images thrown together without any real master plan? And for me, it felt like this movie was one of those kind of movies where a lot of it was done for effects rather than actually having anything interesting particularly to say. Having said that, and again, I don't want to dunk on it too much, because I appreciate the nods to the 80s. I think some of the stuff there was a lot of stuff they got right, with like the POV and the kind of chilly atmosphere and the giggling girls and all those kind of, goofy guys and the ridiculous stuff you would see in early 80s slasher movies, like, for instance, the mailman coming up to your house and falling asleep on a hammock for no particular reason. It's kind of thing you might see in a fun 80s slasher movie. But when it got to the kind of gory stuff, and I appreciate it, it's not CGI, it's proper, full on. I think they may have been a little bit CGI, but it was pretty well used, full on practical gore effects, and they're really well done. It is a very gory movie. There's shotgun blasts to the head, which look pretty realistic. So if you're a gore fiend, you're going to lap this up. It's just, and also I think for me, the central character, the woman covered in blood, almost a very brave performance for her. But actually, part of me felt like they could have actually made a serious, creepy horror movie from this. Something like you touched on, Nathan. Without all the comedy, they could have just made it actually something that was, dare I say it, more of an A24 type movie.
Yeah, this is kind of encroaching into background, but I was reading something about the director, how he talked to this model and convinced her to be in this movie, and she went for it. And I'm thinking, wow, they've got an idea here. A naked girl covered in blood as a killer. That sounds really cool. But like you said, they did not stick the landing.
No, for me, a film that sort of plays with that kind of devilry stuff much better is like Starry Eyes, which I think is a fantastic movie, which is really, really good. But the one thing I did get a laugh from is like when the naked bloody girl walks up to the campfire with the three of them standing there. And one of the girls, and she's walking up to completely like Carrie, drenched from head to foot in blood, dried blood or wet blood. And one of the girls says, "There's something wrong with her," which kind of made me laugh a little bit because it was kind of like, yeah, you think. So I kind of appreciate they tried to do something different. And it does look a lot better than a lot of low budget slasher movies. It looks the part. And some of the performances are pretty good. If you love the gore, you got gore in spades. It's just, I didn't really stick the landing for me. It just felt like it was, you're watching these kind of, there's kind of just going from one set piece to another of kind of gore and like body horror and gross out. And you're just thinking, is there anything really beyond that? And I kind of, my gut tells me there wasn't.
Pretty much echoing my thoughts. I know someone who might want to dunk on this film, Eric.
Yeah. No, I can appreciate that the film is technically really well made. I mean, it looks great for a film of its budget. I don't know what the budget was, but I'm guessing it was quite low. And I understand the need to be a bit quirky, maybe be a bit offbeat in an attempt to stand out from the crowd, because there is such a thing as sort of the horror sort of mountain of just stuff. If you look on Amazon Prime, there's just hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of homemade horror films, and to stand out from the crowd is quite difficult. And this does stand out from the crowd, but it just wasn't my cup of tea at all. It felt like a real festival movie to me, because I used to go to the Dublin Horrorthon for a long time, and these type of films would crop up all the time, which is films that are kind of quirky, that maybe inject kind of a quirky sense of humor into the sort of character interactions and that. And so it felt that way. So I actually went back and looked, and this did play at Dublin's Horrorthon in 2017. And looking at the poster, it seems to have won numerous awards from festivals around the world. But to me, as you said, it kind of revels in disgust rather than making any kind of attempt to be scary or suspenseful or interesting. The big problem for me, like with Joseph, is that I found the characters to be like really unlikable, not just a tiny bit unlikable. I just found them all really unlikable and annoying, especially Pete, who we meet at the start, who's the wanking guy. I mean, he starts out by wanking in the back seat, as you said, and then he shouts out penis at the top of his voice for no particular reason. And then we see him spying on the girls across the lake, and he's, having a quick tug on himself. And I thought, okay, if this is the tone of the movie, this, I'm not going to enjoy this. And that's kind of what panned out for me. I mean, we see him later then where he finds that what he thinks is a dead girl in the woods, and he starts taking pictures of her because she's naked, and he leans in for a kiss, and it's probably going to lead to some necrophilia, but then she wakes up and reveals herself as this kind of zombie character. But I mean, how are you supposed to engage with a character of this kind? And just, everything felt contrived and forced, and it felt like it was trying to be as quirky as it possibly could. And the more quirky it became, the more annoyed I became with the film. And like the humor elements reminded me of American Pie, which I know was a huge hit in 1999 and loads of people love it. I think it's one of the worst films I've ever seen. and the American Pie elements of this just really rubbed me up the wrong way. I thought it was interesting, the Postman character, who I thought looked like the lead singer of Foals, who are a band I really love. Do you like Foals, Justin? Are you familiar with their work?
I've heard of them, but I've never... No, they're not gothy enough for me.
They're not gothy enough. They're kind of a sort of a pop indie band from the UK, and he looks like the lead singer. But I just like the way his approach to being a mailman is to knock on everyone's door and make sure they're in. I mean, it's just a letter. Can you not just post it through the letterbox and leave? I thought that was interesting. Like everyone was saying, I thought there was no consistency in the film. It was tonally all over the place. Like sometimes the characters are reacting to horrific situations in a way that's realistic, and sometimes they're reacting to it in a way that's kind of jokey and there's no consistent tone to the film. Like there's a scene where Felicite, and as Nathan mentioned, that began to irk on me after a while, the way the father character kept saying Felicite. But there's a scene where her eyes glow and she lets out this sort of ungodly shriek, and it's never sort of referred to again, and nobody reacts to it as if she's a kind of a demonic presence or anything. So I didn't really understand either what the whole satanic ritual was about. I think I probably tuned out when it was explained why they were trying to do this satanic ritual. I had to go to the Wikipedia page to look for the plot description to see why they were doing this, because I became so unengaged. Like, unlike Nathan, I did find this film boring. I felt like, as Nathan said, I like films that make no sense. Like, I loved Nightmare Weekend, which we covered a couple of years ago, which was the film with the silver sphere and the computer, and it was just made no sense, and it was just off the wall. And even Boarding House, something like that. But this one, I felt like there was possibly some momentum built up in the first 20 minutes, but then when they get to the cabin with the family and the satanic ritual, I felt it just ground to a halt, and it became very, very tedious for the next maybe 45 minutes. I just lost all interest in the film at that stage. I do agree that the image of the girl across the lake covered in blood and then approaching them was interesting and quite eerie, and I thought maybe at that point that's the film. This is the point where the film sort of takes off, but it didn't. I could have done without all the satanic ritual stuff in the cabin, which I felt took up a good 40 minutes of the film, and it just didn't interest me in any way. So it kind of reminded me of an Eli Roth type film where it's trying to be gross whilst also being quirkily funny, and it didn't work on either. Well, it did work on the basis of being gross, because the whole tampon thing, what I thought was repulsive, but the humor didn't work for me. The horror didn't work for me. I hated all the characters. But as I said, the film seems to have a following. Lots of people like it. I know the person who picked this is a big fan of the film, and I appreciate that. But it just was not my cup of tea at all. I wouldn't even class it as a slasher film, to be honest, because I didn't get any kind of slasher vibes off it. I'm kind of a purist when it comes to slasher movie definitions, I suppose, and this felt, I don't know what kind of genre you'd shoehorn it into, but it maybe a more of a sort of satanic panic type of movie. I'm not sure, but and I know this is a bit rich coming from me especially, but I just found the humor and the kind of lowbrow humor and the gross out stuff kind of childish. And I know I'm not Mr. Sophistication, but I thought it was some of the stuff was even too lowbrow for me. Like the guy wanking across the lake, I thought, not even I would come up with that idea. So yeah, it's a thumbs down for me, I'm afraid. It just wasn't my cup of tea at all. Yeah.
Well, sorry if we broke your heart, Peter.
I do love the Netherlands, though.
I always appreciate when someone makes an indie and it gets applause and accolades. But I don't know, it's just not my type of film. The one question I had is, in the scene where the mailman character lays down in the hammock, they have the scene with one of the killers, quote unquote, stabbing him. And then like 5 seconds later, the two girls find him and he's just, nothing happened.
They were extracting blood from him, weren't they, for their chalice of evilness.
Yeah, I must have missed that.
It's very, like, I watched it twice this week, like Nathan, because, as I said, I just missed the point of what the satanic ritual was. So
wasn't it to bring back the mother?
Yeah.
Who was also Christy. But why was she friends with those girls, or was she just a vessel?
Oh, I don't know.
So background. Do we have any backgrounds on this?
Nathan does.
Nathan, what's the background you've got?
Oh.
No.
You can't even look in the camera when you do that.
Yeah.
I can't. I'm too ashamed.
Well, I didn't find much except the usual IMDb stuff, which I was going to let Nathan read out, but apparently he didn't navigate to that site. I was attempting to navigate the world of director Matt Stuertz, and I know he's done a handful of successful shorts and anthologies across the internet. He did one series called 60-Second Slashers. I think he did 15 episodes of that. And, most of the cast and crew involved are just people that, if you go looking for them, you kind of get sucked into banal Instagram feeds. So I couldn't really find much on this film. So maybe one of you guys can do me one better on background.
Eric?
Look over there. No, quick, look over there. Look, what's that? Over there, look.
Well, the only bit of background I've got, which I thought was a little bit interesting, was that it was filmed. This is the thing I thought was interesting because for such a low-budget movie, it was actually filmed at the tail end of 2015, in I think November, December time. So it would have been. It looks like it was shot in the winter because everything, all the trees are, everything looks quite sparse. But I was thinking, you had like the two women dressed in the bikinis at the beginning. They must have been literally freezing their, what's off. And that poor girl walking around covered in blood, naked, shooting in November, December time for her art.
I'm going to go find this actress and say, I admire your bravery.
Well, apparently this was her only movie role. Maybe this is why.
Yeah, unless she was using a pseudonym, which is very possible, wouldn't it? But, I don't know. But it's something for when she's, I don't know, something to put on with friends and family, Thanksgiving. So, okay, well, so that was that. So you said we do have some feedback on the movie, do we?
Yeah, nothing to break records, but we had an okay 11 comments for Tonight She Comes. Watched it last night. Decently shot and good effects, but the story itself is a total mess. It suffers from the post-2010s trend of having every character being thoroughly unlikable, and pretty much every five minutes or so, I found myself left confused, either by character motivations changing on a whim mid-scene, or by the plot in general. Why was James so obsessed with hand-delivering the letter in person? Why did he decide to just take a random nap after not finding anyone? On a property which possessed a trespassing sign, which just minutes earlier he'd been freaked out about. Why didn't he wait just a few minutes for Pete to pinch one out? Why are we meant to think it's okay for these two guys to sexually predate on Ashley and Lindsay? What the fuck is even going on? Sorry, but me no likey. And that was from Simon Logan.
Oh, Simon Logan.
That's Simon Logan.
Simon Logan.
If memory serves me correctly, it starts out really uninteresting and dull. And then about maybe a half hour later, you're in this whirlwind of blood and people screaming on camera. That is anything but dull. Maybe not good, but certainly not dull. And that's from Alan Dorick, or Dorich. I don't know how to pronounce your last name. And the man who chose Tonight She Comes, Peter. And I'm going to pronounce your last name again. I've been listening to your shows since I heard your commentary on Vinegar Syndrome's release of Nail Gun Massacre back in the day. I never miss an episode, and I seek out the Blu-rays with your commentaries on it. Big fan. The first time I saw Tonight She Comes, it was a blind pick, and I knew nothing about it. After the introduction of Mailman James and his obnoxious friend Pete, I was ready to turn it off, thinking it was another one of those modern horror flicks where every character is an unlikable asshole. But the girls were fun, so I kept watching, and boy, was I happy I did. The interaction between the girls and the totally useless James is fun, and the mystery surrounding Christy is interesting, and when the horror starts, it delivers the gore in gallons of chunky goo. The unrated version is even more extreme. Director Stuertz keeps everything going at a perfect pace, and the plot twist turning the cabin by the lake slasher into a backwoods family witchcraft movie is just great. The final 10 minutes are totally bonkers, and the rebirth scene is a literal showstopper. My goodness, I have nothing bad to say about this film. I can watch it on a loop, and it is high in my top 10 post-2000 horror films, along with films like It Follows and Censor. Tonight She Comes is never discussed anywhere, and I find that really strange for a movie this much fun. Maybe by discussing it on the show, it will find a greater audience, which I think it deserves. Thanks again for picking it, and I hope you all got some enjoyment out of it. All the best from the Netherlands, and keep up the good work. Peter B. And wow, he really liked this movie.
Sorry, Peter. Yeah.
Yeah, I have to disagree, buddy. Sorry.
Well, I mean, I kind of agree with you, Peter. I mean, like I said, I did find a lot to enjoy here.
Well, I think it's great that, we can thank Peter for we're going a little bit off the beaten track with this choice. So it's interesting to mix things up a bit. And I think there are good things in this movie. It's just not, I didn't get what he got from it. And we're not all the same, are we? I mean, some people like good music, and some people like Toyah. So
I'll just read my liner notes from classic 1981 album by Toyah, Anthem.
Is that the one with it's the Mystery on it?
If you're referring to It's a Mystery, yes, it is on it.
Does Toyah have a lisp? Is that why you say methery?
Yeah, she does. And Justin's being disableist or whatever it's called.
Well, Eric, after one of your more recent jokes of the week, I don't think you can be throwing those kind of accusations around. So
I don't know what you mean.
Okay. So, well, thank you. So, well, actually, I mean, that does bring us kind of neatly onto Eric's joke of the week. So
it's my joke of the week. It's so freaking fantastic.
So this film was originally going to have Justin as the villain, and he was going to be chasing Jensen Ackles, and it was going to be called Tonight He Bums. Tonight He Bums. Chasing Jensen Ackles.
My screen was frozen. That's what happened there.
Nathan was like,
well, I didn't have my mouth hanging open like an idiot. I went like this. I shouldn't have done that.
So, well, I think we're drawing to close. We don't have any feedback, do we, to read out for this episode?
I don't think so.
No. So do remember to send your feedback in. How can they do that, Joseph?
Follow us on Blue Sky at THC-podcast. Listen on Patreon and YouTube to help support the show, or listen wherever you catch your pods. If you just want to listen, write to the show via the Hysteria Continues at gmail.com with feedback and general questions. If all of that sounds like too much to remember, just search our name. You'll find us.
Indeed. We'd love to hear from you. So we're just about to record our, what's it going to be? We're doing a Fango flashback going back to issue 57, I think, aren't we? Talking about
57,
films like
yes.
Deadly Friend, and I think there's, what else are we talking? I'm talking about
Justin,
Deadly Friend.
It's Susie.
Hello, my name is Susie. I like to sing songs about death and graveyards because I'm stupid.
No more of those gin and tonics for Eric, please.
If it's this bad now, just imagine the drunk cast this Thursday.
So, yes, we're covering... So what are you covering on that one, Eric?
I am covering an article on Friday the 13th, Part 6, Jason Lives.
Okay. And Joseph?
I had a look at the article on The Wraith.
Okay. And Nathan?
I'm going to be covering the Texas Chainsaw Massacre Part 2.
Okay. Well, so...
AKA Susie and the Nocturnes.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
Well, Eric's the one that did that joke, Justin.
So I shall gloss over that. But yes, so we're covering that, and also we're going to do another quiz. So Eric's quite lubed up in possibly both ways. And so, but yes, we're going to be covering that. And so there are actually going to be some like video rounds on this one, which you can still hear. So they're going to be like clips from trailers. So see if you can guess which ones they are, which should be fun to watch on video. But
Friday
again,
the 13th, Part 3. Have I won?
No, you haven't won, Eric. So Eric might be, sort of lubed up enough to go full Inga, which you'll see. But that's exclusively on Patreon, so check us out over there on video. So
give us money because I need sweets.
And gin.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what are we covering next time?
It is your pick. No, it's Nathan's pick.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm not finished with Officer Joe Vickers, so we're going to watch Psycho Cop Part 2.
Ah, excellent.
Just Psycho Cop Returns, is it?
It is, yeah.
But a word to everyone out there, Tubi has the unrated version. That's the one that you need to see because the rated version cuts out literally every drop of blood is cut from that rated version. They butchered it. And on YouTube, the movie's on there, but it's the cut version. So it's, it's not worth it without seeing all the gore. So make sure you're watching the unrated version.
Do you prefer it uncut normally, Nathan?
Justin, that sounds a bit rude.
It's awfully rude.
And also,
he's stammering. He obviously likes uncut Nicaraguan.
He does. You're a dirty boy, Nathan Johnson.
I don't have any comebacks.
So, well, what are we playing out with, Joseph?
We are playing out with Tonight She Comes by the Cars. Probably has nothing to do with the movie, but I like the song.
The Cars is like my favorite 80s band.
I think the Cars are really good. Really good.
Oh.
You're welcome.
You finally got into gear with that one, Eric, didn't you?
Oh, Justin, honestly, leave the jokes to the experts.
Where are they? So,
me.
Okay, well, we'll catch you next time for more Officer Vickers, Psycho Cop Returns, which is going to be a fun one to talk about. We'll catch you next time on Hysteria Continues. So thank you for listening and say goodbye to the good people.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.